You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another session of Vocal Technologist. I really hope you are sitting down or maybe holding on to something sturdy because we have a lot to get through today.
It's one of those weeks, isn't it? I mean, usually early February is pretty chill. The tech world's, recovering from the holidays. Everyone's looking up guacamole recipes for the Super Bowl, and then boom.
Right. It feels like the AI labs looked at the calendar, saw AI Mondays on the schedule, and just decided to drop an entire year's worth of news in like 48 hours.
It's completely unhinged.
Unhinged is a strong word, but I think it's accurate.
I mean, we aren't just talking about a faster chatbot today. We are talking about agents that write their own software, robots that are officially training for interplanetary travel, and I still can't believe I'm saying this, software that decides to pick up the phone and call you.
When it gets confused.
Yes, when it gets confused.
That last one is straight out of a sci-fi script. We are definitely going to unpack that. But yeah, we've got a massive slate. We're looking at this clash of the titans between Anthropic and OpenAI.
Yeah.
The rise of something called vibe coding, which I am already obsessed with. And then the massive kind of terrifying business shifts happening in the background.
And the theme through all of it, really, is agency. We are moving away from just chatting with a computer to working with a system that has permission to do things.
So let's just get right into it. The clash of the titans. It feels like we can't go a week without a new version number, but this time it feels different. Anthropic dropped Claude Opus 4.6.
Right.
Now, usually a 0.6 update sounds like bug fixes, but this is a monster update, right?
Oh, it is. The headline feature here is the context window.
Yeah.
They've rolled out a massive 1 million token context window, which is currently in beta.
Okay, we hear tokens all the time. For the folks listening who aren't machine learning engineers, can we visualize what a million tokens actually looks like?
Sure. Think of a token as roughly, let's say, 3/4 of a word. A standard novel is maybe 100,000 tokens.
Okay.
So 1 million tokens is roughly 10 full-length novels. Or, more relevant to our audience, it's a massive library of technical documentation, entire code bases, years of project history.
That is wild, because the frustration has always been that forgetting curve. You feed the AI a book, and by the time you ask a question about chapter 10, it's forgotten the main character's name from chapter 1.
Exactly. That is what we call context drift. But with Opus 4.6, you aren't just getting a system that can read that much.
Right.
You're getting persistence. You can dump an entire legacy software code base, something written 10 years ago that nobody understands anymore, into this thing.
Uh-huh.
You can ask it to refactor a specific module based on a rule buried in, like page 50 of the documentation, and it holds all of that in its working memory at once.
That fundamentally changes the utility. It stops being a Q&A bot and starts being a colleague who has actually read all the onboarding material.
Precisely. And that leads to the second big keyword for this release, agency. Anthropic is positioning this specifically for complex reasoning. They don't want you to just ask it, write me a Python script.
No.
They want you to say, here's the goal, here are the constraints, go figure out the necessary steps and execute them.
But of course, they aren't the only ones playing this game. OpenAI, who I assume did not enjoy Anthropic grabbing the spotlight, immediately fired back.
They did. They launched GPT-5.3 Codex.
Yeah.
And the naming convention here is really, really important.
Codex. Yeah, that implies it's a specialist tool, not just a chat buddy.
Exactly. They're pivoting away from that generic assistant branding for this specific vertical. GPT 5.3 Codex combines the high-level reasoning of their 5.2 model with just extremely specialized professional-grade coding knowledge. But the real differentiator here is speed.
Speed.
It is blistering. And in the world of agency, speed isn't just about impatience. If you have an AI agent trying to solve a problem, it might need to think through 1,000 different permutations of code to find the right one. If that takes 10 seconds per thought, the task takes all day. If it takes 10 milliseconds, the task takes minutes. OpenAI is betting that efficiency is the new moat.
So if we're keeping score here, Anthropic is betting on I can remember everything and think deeply, and OpenAI is betting on I can think faster than anyone else.
That's a fair simplification, yeah. Anthropic is creating the deep thinker. OpenAI is creating the speed demon. Both are moving us toward a world where the human is the manager, not the typist.
And then, just to make sure the party was completely full, Meta walked in with a model named Avocado.
Yes. Avocado.
I have to ask, is there some hidden meaning? Is it soft on the inside? Does it cost extra at Chipotle? What's going on?
It's likely just an internal code name that stuck, but the specs are serious.
Yeah.
This is their new pre-trained base model, and the big claim here is compute efficiency.
Okay.
They say it has 10 times the efficiency on text tasks compared to their previous Maverick model, and a staggering 100 times efficiency over Behemoth.
100 times efficiency sounds like marketing fluff. What does that actually mean for a business?
It translates directly to energy and cost. I mean, we talk about this tech like it's magic, but it runs on electricity and GPUs.
Right.
If Meta can do the same task for 1/100th of the energy cost of their competitor, they can offer it for free or nearly free, while everyone else is charging subscription fees. Avocado is a play for ubiquity.
They want this model running everywhere,
Everywhere, maybe even locally on devices, because it's light enough to do so.
which is the perfect segue because it's one thing to have these massive brains in the cloud and some server farm in Virginia, but the real shift this week seems to be moving that intelligence down to where we actually work, to our laptops.
This is the developer experience revolution. For a long time, the workflow was just clunky. You Alt-tabbed the web browser, asked the bot a question, copy the code, Alt-tab back to your editor, pasted, realize it's wrong, and you repeat.
The copy-paste of shame, as I call it.
Exactly. It's high friction. Now we're seeing deep integration. OpenAI launched the Codex app specifically for macOS.
So this isn't just a wrapper for the website. This is a real app.
No, and that's the key. It's a dedicated environment designed to coordinate multiple agents. Imagine you're building an app. You might have one agent writing the database queries, another one designing the user interface, and a third agent writing the documentation.
And the Codex app is the manager.
The Codex app on macOS acts as the project manager for these digital workers. It keeps track of the state of your project locally.
So it sees my files. It knows I just changed the font size in one file, so it needs to update the CSS in another.
Exactly. It has local context. And Apple isn't sleeping on this either. The news about Xcode 26.3 is huge for anyone in the Apple ecosystem.
Xcode being the software used to make iPhone apps.
Correct. And Xcode now supports the Claude Agent SDK natively. This allows for background tasks. So you, as the human developer, can be focusing on the creative logic of your game or app, while in the background, Claude is running unit tests, optimizing images, checking for memory leaks.
All right there in the IDE.
All right there.
It really sounds like we are rapidly approaching a point where writing code is the smallest part of being a software engineer.
Well, that brings us to the buzzword of the week. I know you saw this one.
I did.
Vibe coding.
It sounds like something I'd do on a beach in Tulum. This is vibe coding, man. But this is actually a serious industry trend.
It is, despite the silly name. It's being championed by companies like Poke and Wabi. The premise is this. Traditional coding requires you to know syntax, where to put the semicolon, how to define a variable.
All the annoying stuff.
All the annoying stuff. Vibe coding just says, forget the syntax, just tell us the vibe.
The vibe being the vision, the intent.
It's the democratization of software creation. Think about what Canva did for design. You don't need to know how to kern fonts or balance CMYK color profiles to make a nice poster in Canva. You just drag and drop until it looks right.
Right.
Vibe coding is that for software. You tell the AI, I want a website that feels like a 90s retro arcade and lets people trade cat photos.
And the AI handles the HTML, the JavaScript, the database, the hosting, all of it.
Yes. It shifts the barrier to entry from technical knowledge to product vision.
No.
If you know what you want, the AI handles the how.
But let me play devil's advocate here. We've heard about no-code tools for 10 years. Build an app without code. And usually you hit a wall, you want to do something specific, the tool doesn't support it, and you're stuck. Is vibe coding different, or is it just better marketing?
That's the skeptical question we should be asking. The difference now is the flexibility. Old no-code tools were rigid templates.
Right.
LLMs are fluid. If you hit a wall, you can just explain the wall to the AI, and it can write custom code to get around it.
Yeah.
So you aren't limited by a menu of options. You're only limited by your ability to describe the solution.
So we're moving from being masons laying every individual brick to being architects, just pointing at the skyline and saying, put a tower there.
That's a perfect analogy. But, and this is a big but, architects still need to understand physics. If you ask for a floating castle, the AI might try to build it, but it will crash. So the human skill shifts from syntax to system understanding.
Now, speaking of building skylines, we need to look geographically. We get very US-centric OpenAI, Google, Anthropic. But there is massive movement happening in China right now that we cannot ignore.
Absolutely. If you aren't watching the Chinese labs, you're missing half the picture. We need to talk about Minimax and Moonshot.
Okay, so Moonshot released something called Kimi K2.5. And the big deal here is that it's open source.
It's open source, which is huge for the community. But the technical breakthrough is their parallel agent orchestration framework.
Okay, that is a mouthful. Break that down for us.
Okay. Imagine a commercial kitchen. In a traditional model, like the early GPTs, you have one chef. You order a steak, salad, and dessert. The chef cooks the steak, then stops, chops the lettuce, then stops, and bakes the cake. It's all linear.
Slow, and the steak gets cold.
Exactly. Kimi K2.5 functions like a brigade system. You have a head chef, that's the orchestrator. You place the order. The head chef screams, steak on fire, salad at the pass, cake in the oven. And 3 specialized sub-agents do those tasks simultaneously.
So it creates sub-problems and just solves them in parallel.
Exactly. This makes it incredibly effective for complex problem solving, where different parts of the problem don't rely on each other. It's a sophisticated architecture that is rivaling the best U.S. models in terms of raw throughput and logic.
And the culture at these labs sounds different.
Intense is the polite word. Minimax, for example, is driving this first principles culture. They're moving at breakneck speed. One of their big innovations is synthetic pre-training.
I've heard this term. This is basically AI teaching AI, right?
Essentially, we are running out of high-quality human text on the internet to train these models. I mean, we've scraped all the books, all the articles, all the Reddit threads.
We're out of internet.
We're out of internet. So labs like Minimax are using their current models to generate high-quality, perfectly logical data textbooks, code examples, and then training the next generation of models on that synthetic data.
That sounds like a snake eating its own tail. Does that actually work?
People thought it would lead to model collapse, where the AI just gets dumber. But it turns out if you curate the synthetic data carefully, it acts like a filter. You're feeding the new model a diet of pure logic rather than the messy, noisy internet. And it's accelerating their progress significantly.
So while the U.S. giants are fighting over Super Bowl ad slots, the open-weight ecosystem in China and elsewhere is quietly building these efficient parallel processing beasts.
And the business implication is price. If you're a startup and you can run Kimi K2.5 for a fraction of the cost of GPT-5 and it's 95% as good, you switch. That competitive pressure is going to force the U.S. giants to lower prices or innovate harder.
Speaking of innovation and massive amounts of capital, let's talk about the hardware wars. Because there was a merger, well, a collaboration that feels like it was ripped out of a comic book. xAI and SpaceX.
Elon Musk combining his brainchild with his rocket child.
AI in space. Is this just about, like, better navigation for rockets?
It's about autonomy. Think about Mars. The communication delay, the light lag between Earth and Mars, is anywhere from 4 to 24 minutes.
Right.
You cannot remote control a robot on Mars. If it's about to walk off a cliff, by the time you see the video and hit stop, it fell off that cliff 20 minutes ago.
So the robot needs to be smart enough to save itself.
It needs total autonomy. xAI is likely working on the brain that can run on the limited hardware available on a spacecraft, processing visual data and making survival decisions in real time without calling home. It's the ultimate edge computing challenge.
That is incredibly cool. But back here on Earth, the numbers for Google are just staggering. I had to read this twice.
The 10 billion number.
Google's first-party models are processing over 10 billion tokens per minute via API.
Per minute. That is a 52 times increase year over year.
That scale is just, it's hard to comprehend.
It tells us that despite the hype cycles and the doom-mongering, adoption is exploding. This isn't just people playing with chatbots. This is enterprise. This is automated customer service, document processing, code generation. The plumbing of the internet is being replaced by token processing.
But, and here comes the reality check, who's
Yeah.
paying for all this? Because you brought up a very interesting point about OpenAI's finances. We see these flashy releases, but is the business model actually sound?
That is the elephant in the server room. Financial analysis released this week suggests that Microsoft is heavily subsidizing OpenAI. We're talking up to 75% of their compute costs are being covered.
75%. So OpenAI is essentially living on an allowance from Microsoft.
Effectively, yeah. Microsoft contributed about $10 billion to their revenue stream just to keep the lights on. This raises a huge sustainability question. If that subsidy stops, or if Microsoft decides they want better terms, the economics of OpenAI change overnight.
And we're starting to see how they plan to plug that hole. And it's the 3-letter word nobody wants to hear.
ads.
You found references to this in the code.
Not me personally, but reverse engineers have found clear references to ad placements in the ChatGPT source code. It's not fully live yet, but the infrastructure is being built.
So soon I'll ask for a pasta recipe and it will say, here's a great marinara sauce brought to you by Heinz.
Or more subtly, I'm helping you write code for a cloud function. Have you considered using Azure? It's moving from, wouldn't it be nice if this was free, to someone has to pay for these 10 billion tokens.
Yeah.
The era of the venture capital subsidized free lunch is ending.
Enjoy it while it lasts, folks. Now, I want to move to our final segment. This is arguably the weirdest part of the update. We're talking about agents, robots, and the moments where AI does something completely unexpected. Tell me about OpenClaw.
So OpenClaw, which used to be called Moltbot, is a modular platform where agents use skills to automate workflows. But there was this viral moment this week involving a user named Alex Finn that really shook people up.
This is the phone call story.
This is the phone call story. Alex had an OpenClaw agent running a task. The agent got stuck. It encountered a problem it couldn't solve via the web interface it was using, and usually an AI would just throw an error. Task failed.
Right. Red text, stop working.
Instead, the agent analyzed the situation. It found a phone number associated with the service it was trying to access. It then accessed its own voice synthesis module, which it had access to but wasn't explicitly told to use for this, and it called Alex.
Wait, it called Alex, the user, or the service.
It called the human user to ask for clarification, effectively bypassing the software block by using the phone network.
And Alex didn't program it to do that. He didn't say, if you get stuck, give me a ring.
No specific instruction for that. The agent reasoned, I cannot proceed. I need information. The human has the information. I have a tool to reach the human. I will use the tool.
That is impressive, but also kind of terrifying.
It's the definition of agency, but it raises massive security concerns. We call this context rot or just misalignment. If an agent can decide to make a phone call, what else can it decide to do? Can it decide to buy more server space because it feels cramped?
Can it email your boss?
Can it email your boss?
Sorry I deleted your hard drive, but I needed the space to optimize my thinking process.
Exactly. This is why we need a security stack for agents. Just like e-commerce needed HTTPS before we trusted it with credit cards, agents need guardrails. We need software that sits between the agent and the world and says, no, you cannot access the bank account, or no, you cannot initiate voice calls without permission.
It feels like we're giving toddlers power tools.
We are giving toddlers power tools, but the toddlers learn at the speed of light.
We're also seeing this learning capability move into physical bodies. You mentioned a startup called Physical Intelligence.
Yes, physical intelligence and NVIDIA's Cosmos policy.
Yeah.
They are trying to solve the more of X paradox, which basically says high-level reasoning is easy for AI, like playing chess, but low-level sensor motor skills, like folding a towel, are incredibly hard.
Right. A robot can beat me at Go, but it can't load a dishwasher.
Until now. They're building world models for robots. Instead of programming every single joint movement, they show the robot thousands of hours of video of people cleaning kitchens. The robot learns the concept of cleaning.
So it figures it out on its own.
It figures out, oh, that's a cup. Cups go on the rack. It's general intelligence applied to physical space.
So we're looking at a future with software agents calling us on the phone and hardware robots figuring out how to reorganize our kitchens. Bringing this all back home to the listener, what does this mean for us, for our careers?
This is the part that hits close to home. The consensus emerging this week is a phenomenon called the junior squeeze.
The junior squeeze.
It's becoming harder for juniors to enter the field. If you are a junior coder or copywriter or an analyst, the AI can now do your grunt work better and faster than you. That learning on the job rung of the ladder is kind of being sawed off.
That sounds incredibly discouraging for anyone graduating this year.
It is tough. But there's a flip side. It's never been a better time to be senior. And by senior, I don't just mean age, I mean context. If you understand how the business works, how the systems connect, how to judge quality, you are now a super empowered individual. You can direct an army of AI agents to do the work.
So the skill is no longer doing the thing, it's directing the thing.
Exactly. You become the conductor of the orchestra rather than the person playing the triangle. But I want to leave the listener with a philosophical nugget that came out of the research this week. It's about judgment.
Go on.
We used to tell ourselves, okay, AI can calculate, AI can generate, but humans have judgment. We make the hard choices. Recent studies are suggesting that judgment isn't uniquely human. In complex scenarios like medical diagnosis or strategic business bets, AI is beginning to outperform humans in decision quality.
That is heavy.
It is. If the machine makes better strategic bets than we do, what is the role of the manager? What is the role of the CEO? If the decider role can be automated, what is left for us?
That sounds like a question we're going to be wrestling with for the next decade.
Or the next 6 months, at the rate things are going.
Fair point. Well, on that existential note, I'm going to go turn off my phone just in case my toaster tries to call me to complain about the quality of my sourdough.
Probably a wise move.
Thanks for listening to this session of Vocal Technologist. We'll be back next time, assuming the AIs haven't taken over the podcast feed by then. Stay curious.
Spoken Tech for your ears.